We recommend listening to the CW Pod with a glass of Steeple Ridge bourbon. Grown, distilled, well-rested, and bottled in Erling, Iowa. Now from the Channel Seed Studios, this is the CW Pod, fueled by Steeple Ridge.
And hello, welcome to this week's CW Pod on Iowa Everywhere. My name is Chris Williams, and we are presented as always by our friends at Steeple Ridge Bourbon Whiskey. Oh, baby. I want to give a congratulations to my buddy Pat Hoffman from the Lonely Oak Distillery. They were recently named by the American Craft Spirits Association, a.k.a. the ACSA, in St. Louis. Lonely Oak was named the Steeple Ridge, that is, Iowa's best craft whiskey. And I'm not surprised. This stuff is phenomenal. If you're watching us on the YouTube, we've got the white label. We've got my favorite, the black label. And then this one I still haven't opened up, but I need to. It is the Sweet Mash Rye. I might take this back home and watch the Braves with it. I need to stop doing these CW pods in the morning because I want to drink these when I'm sitting here staring at these beautiful bottles. But I just, the whole like whiskey on your breath walking around all day at the office seems a little bit frowned upon, but maybe not. How are you, Aiden Wyatt? Intern Aiden is in today.
I'm here. I don't like it on this side of the camera. I like being back there in my corner.
So here's what we're going to do. Aiden has been completing his internship at Iowa Everywhere. When did you start? You started in June, right?
Technically, yes.
But you were like hanging around
in
earlier.
December of last year.
Yeah, you've been around for a while. And Aiden's got to do a project where he interviews me to complete his internship. So this
is actually for a different class, but
oh, okay. Yeah. Well, whatever. I thought, well, why don't we just do that on a CW pod? Because we can talk more. I'm assuming we're going to talk more about like Iowa Everywhere and what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And that this would be actually interesting for our audience. That's my assumption. I hope so. I don't know where we're going with this, people, okay?
The assignment was interview your hero, so.
God. Is Albert Pujols not available?
He would not be in the top 15
I know,
for me.
He's a big Cubs fan. That was a joke. He broke your heart many a times. So let's do it. What do we want to talk about today?
So just to kind of preface this, pretty much just supposed to ask you about your job, I guess.
God.
But
sure you want to do that?
This is going to be way more than anyone else puts into this assignment, I have a feeling.
Okay, good. So well, hopefully we can get you
a little bit outside of that. But
so you don't want me swearing? None of that.
Okay.
Who's the teacher?
The instructor is...
Anybody I know?
Probably not.
Okay, yeah, don't worry about it. Most of those professors from when I was at Iowa State are long gone.
They just think that you're some media hack now?
Well,
that's fair.
Would they be wrong?
All right.
If somebody called me a hack, would they be wrong? Answer the question. Thank you.
So I just want to start with your journey to Iowa Everywhere / Cyclone Fanatic, I guess. Mm-hmm. From the beginning, like...
Yeah. So like when I was a kid, even?
Mm-hmm. I want it all.
So when did I know like I wanted to be in this field?
Yeah.
Basically.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly I knew I wanted to like I didn't know I wanted to be in like media or journalism per se. I think I knew that I liked talking and that I was decent at it. I did a lot of acting, like theater in high school. To be honest, where it all started for me, I was like every kid in Southwest Iowa who I thought I was going to be the next LeBron, right? Like we're all idiots at that age. And I hurt this shoulder a bunch of times. Like it just kept hurting my left shoulder. And it just, like it was maddening because like every time I get it fixed, then I'd hurt it again. And like it got to a point where it just was really having a negative impact on my, like it hurt all the time. It still does to this day. Like I'm going to have another surgery on it later this year probably. But it was kind of at that point, I would say my freshman year in high school even, because I had heard it a bunch in middle school where I kind of decided like, okay, I'm probably not going to be Mickey Mantle. And I started doing theater. I had a teacher named Mr. Balster who still impacts my life to this day, and he encouraged me to try out for the school play, which in Clarinda, believe it or not, was like a huge deal. They had a really good theater department. They, all that stuff. And I started doing that and realized that I really enjoyed the, projecting something onto other people. I thought I liked broadcasting. But then I wasn't even a journalism. I thought I was going to get into media, but I was a theater major when I got to college. I thought I was going to be, then I thought I was going to be Tom Hanks, right? But I didn't like it in college. I did one play and I really knew I still loved sports and that's what I wanted to do. And I got into journalism school and I don't know. I guess you could say I've been a guy who's never really fit in anywhere. I don't think I fit in there either because everything was about newspapers and magazines and TV stations, and I was obsessed with these fan websites. And I was always on Rivals and Scout, and that was my thing. So I kind of, instead of writing for the school newspaper and stuff like most people did, I was trying to get a job at the one of the local team sites, and I did. And started doing that full time actually as a sophomore in college. I was the publisher of CycloneNation.com, which is a joke. Like, I had no business like doing real journalism, and like looking back at it, like how bad I was at that. But it taught me a lot about like the community aspect of all this thing, and it's bigger than you. And Dan McCarney was a really good influence on me. Like, knocked me down a bunch. Worked with a lot of, like, Randy Peterson was always taking me under his wing. Sean Keeler was like that with the Des Moines Register, and Keith Murphy for sure. He's kind of like my guy, right? I lean on Keith for everything still to this day. He's like a dad to me in this business. So yeah, I always tell people I don't know what I would do if I don't do this, because I don't know anything else. It's like I never set out to do this. It just kind of like fell into me, and it just kind of happened. And I can't really put forth a time when I was like, oh, I want to do the fan site thing, but it just happened. And there's been a lot of bumps along the way. I mean, I'm trying to explain 25 years to you in a 5-minute answer here, which is difficult. But yeah, I always tell people, like, with NASCAR, here we go, going to NASCAR, right? All over the place. But like, if you want to start watching the sport, like, you can't just pick out a favorite driver because you won't be passionate about it. Like, the driver's got to pick you. And for some reason, this industry picked me. And I've thought about leaving it multiple times, and I just can't. So here we are today.
What was your like welcome to the league moment? I'm talking like running a slant over the middle and then Ray Lewis.
Well, definitely McCarney putting me in my place a bunch of times when I was a kid. There was one moment, like, I covered recruiting, okay? So I was working for Scout.com, and I really didn't have a mentor there. There was a guy who owned the website who, to be honest, wasn't a good guy. Like, I wasn't in a very good spot. This guy was in it for wrong reasons. He wasn't helping me in journalism. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I made a lot of mistakes that, you would like to hope if you had somebody teaching you, you wouldn't have made. But it was with recruiting coverage. I was just such a renegade out there, and I was aggressive, and I was hard, and I went after everything, and you'd burn people. I don't think I was like a bad, like, unethical journalist at all, but like, me and McCarney had run-ins where, because back in the day, Aiden, you could go to practice. All the practices were open, and you'd sit there, and like, there's certain things that you're not supposed to, like, if a guy gets hurt, it's like an unwritten rule. You're not supposed to just go, well, this is before Twitter, keep in mind. Actually, it was really Bloom that got us in trouble for the first time, believe it or not, because Bloom was like my top columnist. What a joke looking back at this. But we reported on a guy's injury, and probably got a little bit too specific, and McCarney was just pissed. Like, I don't even think we did anything wrong to this day, but like, I didn't understand like the value of relationships and not screwing people over and that type. I was all about getting the story. It was a totally, if you could put yourself in like a 20-year-old shoes, which you can, you're the least egotistical person. You and Matt Van Winkle, I've told you that a million times, never change. Thanks. But I wasn't like that at that age. Like, I wanted to win every story. I was going to step on whoever I needed to step on. And McCarney calling me a couple of times and telling me I was a slapdick. That was a welcome to the show moment. Like, don't be an idiot type thing.
So on the flip side, what was kind of the moment where you realized you made it?
Ooh. Making it and being there are different. Like making it or being there would be like, I write for the Iowa State Daily and I'm sitting courtside at the NCAA tournament. Like, and that's great. Those young people deserve all those opportunities. It's how they learn. But you didn't really make it. Right? Like, making it to me was, okay, so I did all this in college, and then I tore myself back down, and I went back and did small town radio in Shenandoah for 3 years, which is the best thing ever happened to me. I needed that time to step away from it. And because, again, nobody really taught me anything. Like, I was just this dumb kid who didn't know anything about journalism, trying to do this on my own. And I think I did okay, but it's not work that I'm proud of. So I go back there and come back here to do Cyclone Fanatic with Jason, Matt, and Brian. And we're starting this new company. This message board exists, but it's not a media entity. It's not what we wanted it to be. I think when I thought I made it was the first time we got, a monthly statement and we were making money and not losing money. And it was like, we're actually creating something here that's like real. That's not just like a hobby.
Right.
Type thing. It was always, to me, like, that's when I felt like I belonged, because especially now, everybody has Twitter. Everybody can give their opinions. It doesn't mean that doesn't mean you've made it. Like, to me, like, we self-made this thing, and it was like, oh, we're actually profitable now. You probably thought I was going to say, like, oh, I covered a Super Bowl. No, it wasn't. It wasn't really that. It was all about, because I wanted to prove myself to those guys that I was more than just this blogger, that I could create this, with their help, obviously, that we could create this entity that really was not like, you didn't do independent websites back then. It was either you're a rival site or you were a Scout site, and that was it. And here we were at this small Power 5 school. It's not like Iowa State has a fan base like Georgia's. And that first month where it was like, hey, we're looking at the books going forward, and it's like, we're in the black. It's like, we kind of, now we're actually in the show, which to me was a big deal, because I had proven myself, I think, is more than just a loudmouth.
You already kind of touched on it, but I mean, I have all these questions written down. You've already mentioned like 3 of them. Maybe that's just being around you and knowing how your brain works. But
I'm loud, and you just interrupt me if you want me to stop.
No, you're good. I want you to talk about the value of relationships in the business or in life, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's the most important thing. It's everything. I mean, look at Woj or Adam Schefter, right? Like, these guys are they better broadcasters or writers than anybody else? Maybe. I mean, they're good, but like, why are they who they are? Why does a Woj bomb happen? Because he's built relationships with all these people, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters in our field. Like, there's so many talented writers and there's so many talented podcasters. They're everywhere. Like, I would put myself, like, I'm like average. I truly believe that. Bloom is elite. Bloom is the best writer I've ever been around. Okay. I always strived to be Bloom, but I couldn't do it because I don't have the talent. Like, so to me, like, he already had that, so he could do this. Like for me, Sean Keeler was like that. I had to do it like the old-fashioned way where you just grind and you build up those relationships. That's the most fun part of this thing for me is when I'm watching Tom Herman coach at Florida Atlantic and I'm watching Daniel Robinson at Cleveland State. And now Alex Golish is at South Florida. I love that. Like that's what makes it so like watching, you know, Monte in the NBA and George. And like, it's like you've built all these great relationships and you get to watch them succeed over time. And like, the biggest thing to me is I always try and tell you guys, like, at the end of the day, we don't matter. We just don't. Like, the fans who are watching or listening, like, they just want the team to win. And I would like to think that when this is all over, I'll still have relationships, right? There's always something to fall back on. And, like, to me, if you don't have that, then what are you doing? Anybody can do this, and anybody can be a dick, and anybody can talk, and people will find somebody out there will find you entertaining. But to me, like, there's so many options for all this stuff. There's so many, you have to give them a reason to care about what you're doing. And building that community with those relationships is, to me, like, it's the base of what we do. It's the base of our entire business. And if you don't do that, then you're just another loudmouth, which is not, I hope that that's not what people think about us, right? Like, I hope that it's long lasting, and I'm hopeful that when we do this, it makes people's day. You know, I want to strive to like make people's days better, not tear them down and just be pissy all the time.
Kind of moving a little bit away from that, but what's your why?
Why do I do this?
Sure. However you want to take that.
Oh man, that's loaded. I guess it started to me, and it probably still is, to be honest. Like when I was at KMA, I was trying to get job. Like the Ames Tribune didn't hire me. The Newton newspaper told me I wasn't professional enough or whatever, because I had never worked for a newspaper, right? Like they were looking for these old journeymen. Like the Knoxville radio station turned me down, and so like I developed a real chip on my shoulder, and that was my why for the longest time, because I wanted to walk into every press conference and be like, "Fuck you." You know, you didn't hire me.
Just a kid who listened to Tupac with a chip on his shoulder.
Yes. But that was it, honestly. Like I'm very competitive, as you know, since you've worked with us. Like I'm very competitive. And now I guess it kind of fuels me that we're independent and we're just kind of doing this thing in this world of all these media conglomerates. And I think it's important though, like especially the Iowa Everywhere thing. Cyclone Fanatic has been around a long time. We are what we are at this point. People know that. But like Iowa Everywhere, like I think it's really important for our state. We don't have enough people for these giant media companies to keep putting money into our state. They're just not going to. And if somebody quits, they're going to hire somebody else for half their salary. That's if the person gets replaced at all. And I just don't see that changing until we have more locally owned media. That was why we started Iowa Everywhere. That's it. That's a very like, now of course there's like the prove to your girls you can do anything you want and that type of thing. And you know, a big part for me too is like with Cyclone Fanatic, like more so than Iowa Everywhere, just because it hasn't been around as long. But like when you walk around Jack Trice on a Saturday and you know thousands of people, that's kind of my why now, because it's more than just like a job. It's like I've met all of these incredible people, like and that's
we were out at Mickey's the other night.
We were out at Mickey's.
People knew you,
and like that's what's fun for me, is to be able to keep building on those relationships.
What's your best life advice for a 22-year-old? Actually, let's start with best work advice. The best work advice is I have two things. Do your job. So like if you say you're going to do something, do it. And then what's so funny about this is me and Otts were just talking about this on a pod that we did this week. But you need to, it doesn't matter if you're a janitor
or like you need to make yourself invaluable in whatever you do. Because especially in media, like everybody, cuts are always being made. And like you got to be at a point where like you're like whatever company you work for won't survive if you're gone. Right? Like you've done that. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're hiring you. You know, but like make it so your bosses, and make sure that they know you as a human, right? Like if you never talk to the guy who signs your checks, that's a problem. Like if he doesn't resonate that, or her, I'm sorry. I'm thinking in our case, it's a he. But they got to have that human relationship with you and just be invaluable. And if you do that, you're always going to land on your feet no matter what.
I'm glad you said that because John Walters actually gave me that advice.
Oh, really?
And, like, goes through my head every day since he said that. So
yeah, and like, you know, you just that's another thing too. I think young people think, and I've learned this along the way with myself. Young people always think that, oh man, if I leave that company, they are so screwed. Most of the time, that's not the case. Sometimes it is. But like most of the time, that's simply not, you're not as valuable as you think you are. So make yourself more valuable, if that makes sense.
I mean, that's kind of, you know, I started here doing, I think, just one show. Just me and Sage.
Oh, we'd be so screwed if you left now.
And then you were just kind of like, hey, you know how to do this, right? Can you do it for them? Yeah. All right, how about for these guys? Yeah, all right. And, you know,
and look, you turned it into a job.
Right. Which I'm extremely thankful for.
And there's not a lot of kids in journalism that have a job lined up the second in a good one. Mm-hmm. You know, like you're gonna be paid well. You're gonna have benefits, but you've earned that. Like it hasn't been like, oh, Chris is doing me a favor. Like we wouldn't be able to survive if you moved away.
I appreciate you saying that.
It's the truth.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad because I get asked all the time, like, how do you get a job with Chris Williams? How do you get to work with him? Like,
but you did it the right way. Like you met me, and I'm not as I need to be better at being responsive, but I can be a hard guy to get a hold of sometimes. And like we just kept bumping into each other, and you kept you weren't annoying. You did it, you know, in like a really tactful way, and here we are at Mickey's on a Friday night.
Exactly, living the dream. So let's move on to the best life advice you have for a 22-year-old.
Well, I actually think it's similar. Lower your whatever you think of yourself, take it down about 3 notches. I just think we all, and I'm guilty of this too. Like we're all so self-centered, especially with like I see it all the time with social media. There's a certain handful of humans that just like they live off of getting notifications and and like I just think that like well we're all important, but again like I think if you can set the tone that people don't care about you as much as you think that they do. This goes for anybody in life. Like that guy's got his own problems, right? And oh, you blew a tire in your car today. Yeah, the guy across the street's daughter may have cancer. So like, just find that level of like. I started reading about stoicism. You know what that is?
Heard the term.
I started doing that about 1.5 years ago. I had like a mental breakdown like 4 years ago. Like legit, it was horrible. And the stoicism thing has been really benefit because it just levels you out.
Yeah, so I've heard a different term, apatheia. It means the exact same thing.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of my...
Yeah, and that not that your problems aren't important. Mm-hmm. Like everybody has problems and they are important, and we all need to be respectful of each other, but like I'm just saying most people don't care. So you've got to like be able to find that. and I would also say too, find a circle of friends and family, and it doesn't have to be huge. Because I fell into that when I was in my 20s, and it's just like I have to like see all these people all the time, and all the like, man, you just have to lower your expectations of other humans. God, that's such a terrible thing to say.
It's dark.
Well, and is that bad?
No.
I'm just trying to lower your expectations, and then Okay. So do you think that when I say lower your expectations, it's like you don't need the brand new car. If you've lowered your expectations, you're going to be okay with the smaller car payment or not having one.
Right.
If your expectation is to live in a mansion, you're probably going to be disappointed and unhappy the rest of your life.
Yeah, like I don't think you're trying to say like everyone just go be sad all the time.
No. I'm saying like with like your husband or wife. Like if you expect them to be perfect and the exact human that is meant for you, you're probably going to be disappointed. And guess what? You're not going to be that for them either. So like middle ground, gray area, lower your expectations. Just try and smile a little bit more.
It's good advice.
Especially now with social media and you go on Instagram and like, you know, people aren't posting like, God, you know what? It's been a hell of a week. I'm behind on my mortgage payment. Mm-hmm. You know, my kid's getting bad grades. My wife cheated on me. People don't do that. Like you log on to these things and everybody's lives are perfect, which isn't real.
It's fair.
God, such a negative Nancy.
So kind of sticking with that, hey, I'm a 22-year-old. I want to hear everything that you thought when you were 22. Mm-hmm. How do you think your values in life have changed from 22 to being 39?
Yeah, 39.
Now? Yeah.
Well, my daughters have changed everything. You know, that's first and foremost. We really struggled to have them. We did a lot of infertility treatments, did in vitro for one of them. Just had I didn't necessarily know if I believed in miracles until Cameron was born, because that was the most incredible surprise of my life. We had been trying for like years to have her, told we couldn't have kids, and all of a sudden, you know, she's there. So like you just start to, again, like when I was 22, I lived life strictly through the prism of like, what can I do today for myself to make it better? And at 39, like you wake up and not only am I thinking about Cameron and Elise and Ashley, I'm thinking about you and Jacqueline and Connor, and right, like you have all these other people that rely on you, that you care about, that you want to do what's best for, and you don't always show it perfectly. It's not like I'm like the perfect dad or husband, but you gotta try, and that's the biggest thing for me. I mean, I'm still a selfish prick sometimes. Like I totally understand that, but you strive to not be. That's the biggest thing for me. Like all I cared about when I was 20 was work, because I was a total workaholic, which I still am, but you can focus it in a different area where, you know, instead of trying to break every story, which is great. I hope young journalists out there are trying to do that too, but you can maybe raise some money for charity at the same time. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, what can we do to make this young person's life better? Like those types of things.
So let's kind of step away from your personal stuff here.
All right.
Let's talk about the future Iowa Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Great question.
Because I have people ask me all the time. Well, first of all, let's start with how would you describe Iowa Everywhere? Because I kind of have a tough time describing it to people.
So do I.
Just because, you know, it's kind of a sports media company, but at the same time, it's not totally a sports media company.
We started with sports because that's what we know.
Right.
Especially when we knew, to be honest, we weren't even going to, Iowa Everywhere was not, people think when I left KXNO that I was going to start this. That was not the case. Like I had not come up with that idea yet. Hassel and I had talked. Hassel and I have wanted to do a show together for 15 years. Okay, like so this didn't just come out of nowhere. Same with me and John Miller. Okay, so my idea was that I would leave KXNO and just chill for a while because I needed it. I needed, like, the days of the grind of local radio is really hard to describe. And I know there's people out there, oh, you talk about sports for 2 hours. Yeah, but there's so much more to it than that. And then, you know, we got laid off the one time, and like the vibe was just different, and I'd gotten really burnt out, and I was just not like in a good mental spot when I left there. The idea was that I would start doing like some more podcasting with Hassel, and whoever else, and make a little bit of side money to make up for the income that I had lost with KXNO. I met with John Liebel, who does sales for us and is one of our business partners in Iowa Everywhere. And the thing kept growing, and we got to the point where I'm a digital media guy. I always have been, even when I was doing radio. Like I'm passionate about like the digital delivery of things. And this thing kept growing. And I guess I would say right now, like, I don't know where we're going to go because it changes by the day, like what we are. And that's the whole point of the company that's why we call it Iowa Everywhere is we're going to be everywhere. Twitter might blow up tomorrow and we're going to, all right, we'll be wherever, you know. Mm-hmm. Like they've made me do this TikTok thing and I still don't get it, but you know, Chase does a great job running our TikTok page. I hate TikTok. I don't ever get on it, but you guys tell me I need to be there, so I'm there. But like I have this vision for us to be, you know, not only we brought Amber on to do the weather, which has always been a dream of mine because Iowans love sports and weather. Damn it. I can't wait until there's like snowstorms coming and we're going live with Amber. We brought her on like not at an exciting weather time, but I think that's going to really grow. And the lifestyle aspect of this, you know, we've brought on Steeple Ridge and I'm doing a lot more lifestyle stuff on this CW pod. This is the one show I guess I'm probably the most passionate about. Like Two Guys is a blast. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But I have this, like, I want to bring on, like, I'm going to bring on a ghost hunter in a couple weeks for Halloween. I want to bring on, you know, and just do fun stuff. People have asked, are you going to get into hard news? I don't know. It's probably not on my radar right now because I don't think we can do it well. That's why we started with sports. I knew we could do it well, and I knew there would be a following there, and then we're going to see what else we grow to. But I think what's interesting about what we do is probably not that interesting to most of the audience, but it's how we do custom stuff for our partners, for our advertisers. It's so different than any other media entity, how we integrate, or not any entity, but how, you know, locally probably because of our independence, and we can just do whatever we want with these partners, like what we've been able to do with Channel Seed and Fairway and the Meat Box and, you know, all that good stuff. So I would kind of say in a weird way, it's like Barstool Sports in Iowa is.
Some people aren't going to like that.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, but it's the same type deal. It's sports, it's pop culture, but
it's content, baby.
Yeah. And it's all digital. We don't have any plans to have a TV show. Like if we're going to do that, our YouTube numbers keep exploding. You know, like we're just going to, whatever we do, I want to do it well. I don't want to be like, oh, we're just going to half-ass into covering the Capitol. Like, Plus, everything's so divisive. I don't want us to be like that.
Makes sense.
That's a hodgepodge answer, but I'll be honest. Like, I don't know exactly where this thing is going, but we're going to ride the wave and hopefully make smart decisions as we go along.
That's about all I have for questions. So if you have anything for me.
What surprised you the most in the last year? What did you learn the most in the last year?
I think relationships has to be the biggest one. I
Good.
mean,
good.
Everyone.
If there's anything you could take from this, that's it.
Yeah, it's like, all right, you need to know that guy, and here's why. And pretty much every time you've been right about why you need to know that guy. So,
and the whole don't be a liar and do what you say you're going to do, because all of those guys know each other.
Yeah, I mean, so that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned over the last year in terms of everything.
What do you think we could do better at Iowa Everywhere? Where do you think we could go?
It's a good question. Because I'm normally bouncing stuff off you. It's like you come to me with ideas. I'm like, yeah, we could do that. But
well, the one thing I worry about is I'm getting older, and like I hate TikTok. The thing I hate about TikTok the most is when I open it, it just yells at me. Why isn't it quiet when you open it? Why don't you?
There's a setting for that.
Oh, is it really?
We can figure that out after.
Yeah, see, that's my entire point. I'm getting older, so I got to have you guys around to keep this thing young.
Yeah, I really like the way that we do breaking news videos. when I can just text you like, hey, give me 90 seconds on this.
And I truly think, too, that's going to be the biggest area of growth in the next year.
Because it's just so easy to do. You know, I mean, you can send out a tweet or whatever, but you don't get the emotion in a tweet.
No. And on top of that, I think we could do more of these emergency type podcasts, too. That's just the biggest thing with that is making sure everybody's in place when the news happens.
Right.
Because it's like, the thing about Iowa Everywhere that most of these people don't understand, we all have other jobs other than you.
Right.
What you're going to be, and that's what we really need. We really need you to graduate, so make sure you get your degree. We really need like that guy or gal in place to be able to mobilize that, because like Hassel could be on set, I could be out running errands for Cyclone Fanatic. People also don't realize like that I'm very involved with my kids. It's one of the reasons I quit radio, is so I could pick them up and I could take them to karate and I could, you know, go and do all these things. So, but yeah, as we keep building up our arsenal of influencers, is what I call it, those types of videos, and like to me, like we're probably going to get into the digital only or to the social only content at some point too, because I feel like people can only listen to so many podcasts.
Right. And that's why I think Iowa Everywhere is kind of different, because, I mean, you were talking about Barstool earlier. Our shows aren't necessarily about the facts. It's more about personalities.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we have so far, I think.
Yeah, and it was built that way. I mean, the Iowa Everywhere and even Cyclone Fanatics podcast network, the way that I've built them, it's not necessarily for you to listen to every show on the network, for you, the listener. It's to have a variety of shows that, like, I get that the diehard Iowa fans probably not going to listen to Firmly Entrenched, and that's fine. But we want to have, you know, shows for everybody. But we also want to make it, if you do want to listen to every show, it's not entirely repetitive, right? If you listen to every show on both of our networks, there's not a lot of repetition. Right. And, like, you can listen to me on Two Guys Named Chris and then listen to Williams and Bloom. Totally different shows. Hassel and I are not breaking down, you know, wow, you know, this true freshman on the kick return, man, he is, you know, it's a totally different deal. And we've thought through all of this stuff. Now, we're not always right, but we're trying to make it so it's there for everybody, but not necessarily for everybody all the time. We just gotta keep. I think we have a really special thing. I think that the audience has been awesome in, like, not only with us but our sponsors. I'm fired up, especially for the first year was a total grind to get this thing off the ground. Now I feel like we finally have our footing, and we're really gonna have a big year too.
Yeah, and I just want to say I'm really grateful for everyone who listens to everything. Like,
isn't it awesome?
This is weird, but someone came up to me when I was in the bookstore at Iowa State a couple weeks ago, and they're like, "Hey, awesome. You're Aiden Wyatt from Iowa Everywhere,
Intern Aiden, baby!"
And that made my day.
Great.
Like, it's good to know someone listens.
And never those people like always feel like you can do that too, because I love it. I mean, you were with us on Friday night. Like, how many pictures did we take?
Right.
And like, I love it. Like, it's because those people are the reason we have jobs.
Right.
And if you ever take that for granted, like, those relationships are just as important as Matt Campbell and Kirk Ferentz are. Probably more important, because Matt Campbell and Kirk Ferentz will be gone at some point.
Yeah.
These fans, these Iowa State fans, are going to be here forever. And if you start to alienate them and you big time them and stuff like that, that's when you've lost it, and you should probably just get out of the business and go do something else.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel, at least. I don't know what else I would do. I don't have any other talents. I have no other skills. You could go farm.
Well, that doesn't mean I'm skillful. I just have a fallback plan, I guess.
I don't have any other. I have nothing else I can do that would be.
We take you in.
Okay. I'll just come and farm for your dad.
Exactly.
Appreciate it. That's good to know. It makes me feel a little bit. I almost did get out of this, though. I didn't tell you this. It was my second year at KMA. I was starting to apply for law schools. I was getting out of the business right around when Luch and those guys got a hold of me. And
you would have gone to law school.
Yeah, I was going to go to Drake Law School, I think.
Did you get accepted? You hadn't applied
I didn't actually do it yet, because I was starting the process and all that crap. And
it's
then
a grind. One of my roommates goes to Marquette now. It's a brutal process.
Oh, I don't know if I would have made it, to be honest. Like I think I might have, but I don't know. Because I wasn't passionate about it. This is what I'm passionate about. If you're not passionate about that, if you don't want to do that, if you're just doing it as like a fallback, it's a lot harder to stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning, studying all. It's not exhilarating stuff. You got to really. It's like my wife in vet school. I watched her go through that. If you don't want to do that, like if you're just doing this because I grew up on a farm and my dad thinks it'd be good to have a veterinarian around, like, good luck. You gotta like dive into it and be passionate. Like the amount of nights she skipped going out to the bars and stuff like that because she just poured herself into it. And any of those specialty, man, that's what you got to do. And that's what you got to do with what we've done. Like we've all poured ourselves into this Iowa Everywhere thing. Like John Liebel selling the shit out of it, and like the amount of hours Hassel spent, like, behind the scenes that people don't know about. None of us would be here if it weren't for Matt Van Winkle.
Yeah.
Like
we didn't know. Taught me close to everything that I know.
We didn't know anything about the video aspect of this. All I ever knew was audio. And Matt took it from the start, bull by the horn, not making a dime. We didn't have any money. We're not all these rich people that can just throw thousands of dollars in it. We started this thing from scratch. We had nothing. We had some equipment that Cyclone Fanatic let us use. That was basically how this thing started. And then Van Winkle's just really good with the visual stuff. And then we got you on board, and like now we're cooking now, baby.
Bad news for the haters.
Bad news for the haters. Well, on that note, if you have recommendations or stuff you guys would like to see, we're always open to ideas.
Absolutely.
We're not the smartest.
No, I was actually diagnosed at a very young age with shit for brains. So
that's a Mike Williams type comment right there. You good?
Yeah, I think we got everything I needed to.
All right, hopefully we get you an A.
Fingers crossed.
I'm going to steal this bottle of Lonely Oak Sweet Mash Rye, Steeple Ridge. It's the green label. I've never had this before. I've had all of the other stuff that Pat makes, and it's phenomenal. And I'm going to take this home, and I'm going to sip on it tonight as the Braves go into Philadelphia and win Game 3, hopefully.
There you have it.
Oh, my God. You should have seen my house the other night. We were tomahawk chopping. We were yelling. It was intense. What a freaking comeback.
Is Kami old enough to really understand what's going on?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I do before every softball game when the Turtles, we watch Chipper Jones highlights on YouTube. And Cameron walks around going, Chipper Jones. No, she gets it. Elise doesn't.
Because I think we had this conversation the other day, like when we first started understanding what sports were.
1991.
I think we both said like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, it was when Kirby Puckett hit the home run. One of my first sports memories was being heartbroken, which
just as God intended.
Fits the part. Yeah. Vikings, Cyclones, Braves for a long time, but I think we're in a good spot right now for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. It'd take something pretty special to screw this thing up.
Tiny to the Cubs.
At least you got to see the World Series, man.
That was pretty cool.
And I'm not a Cubs fan. I'm not a Cubs hater. But that was one of my favorite sports moments of all time because I was doing KXNO then, and we had such a big relationship with the Iowa Cubs. And, I really, really enjoyed our show. We never do baseball, but it was all Cubs there for a month because the city was so engaged by that. And like, there's nothing like playoff baseball. Baseball is far from my favorite sport. It's probably like 4th on the list. But when the Braves are in the playoffs, it's my favorite sport in the world to watch. More so than the Vikings, more so than anything Iowa State. Maybe not March Madness. That's a different deal.
Right.
When the Atlanta Braves are in the playoffs, that is my favorite sport to consume.
Yeah, baseball is kind of a niche sport if you think about it.
It is now. But when I was growing up, it wasn't. Like, I remember the World Series being the biggest sporting event of the year for our family. I remember watching those old Blue Jay teams, the old Philly teams, the Kurt Schilling bloody sock game. We made appointment. We watched every pitch together as a family. And that's why I became such a Braves fan. My mom is from South Carolina. She loves the Cox.
Shout out.
everybody in the South is a Braves fan. It doesn't, and this is before the Florida Marlins. This is before Tampa didn't have a team. Mm-hmm. The only team down there were the Atlanta Braves. So she grew up with that. We have TBS as a kid. Braves are in the, they're winning all those divisions in a row. It was a huge deal in our house, like when playoff baseball started. And even if they weren't in, like I'll never forget 95 when they won their World Series. But it was appointment TV, the World Series. You marked it down. You didn't schedule anything else for that night. And it was a true worldwide phenomenon, baseball was. And it's totally different now. And I can tell you, if the Braves lose, and they may lose to the Phillies, I'll watch a few pitches, but it's regional for me. It's like once my team's gone, I'm out.
Like I haven't watched much playoff baseball this year.
Yeah, because your team's not in it.
The first game I watched was Game 2 the other night.
And you picked a good one.
Yeah.
But like last year, the Braves got eliminated early, and I hardly watched a thing. I watched a little bit of the Dodgers to see Freddie Freeman play, but I'm past that. I don't have that nostalgia anymore. I'm all gone. The Royals, when they made their run, I was locked into that.
So I was 15?
Yeah. I definitely watched every pitch of that because they are my second favorite team growing up so close to there.
Right.
They were always so terrible, too, that it didn't matter. You could have two teams. And back in the day, you had an AL team and an NL team. Most people did. That's not really the case anymore.
Just cheering for half the league, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the Royals were so irrelevant that you didn't feel bad about it.
Right.
And then once they got up there, it was like, God, this is actually happening. So, no, this was fun.
Yeah, thanks for doing this again.
Yeah, thank you. He's Intern Aiden. He will always be Intern Aiden. Hopefully he's still working here when he's 40, and we will still call him Intern Aiden. And he is the man. We appreciate he's been a huge part of everything you see behind the scenes here at Iowa Everywhere. I want to thank my friend Pat Hoffman and all my buddies over at the Steeple Ridge Bourbon Lonely Oak Distillery. Congratulations on the big award. It is very much deserved, and I would encourage you guys to go out and pick up a bottle today. For Aiden Wyatt, hopefully we got him an A. My name is Chris Williams. Again, coming up on CW Pod, I'm working on some stuff with the Tupac mystery.
I'm kind of on a wild goose hunt with
with that author?
With that author.
Yeah, well, we'll get something there. But we are going to have a Halloween episode coming up with real ghost hunters. Did you listen to the Ghost Hunter one last year?
I didn't.
It's phenomenal.
I'll have to go back and listen.
Phenomenal. It wasn't on Iowa Everywhere. It was the old CW pod and the old feed, but we're going to do something like that coming up here in the next couple of weeks and I do think one of the things we're going to do is I think we're going to go on a hunt.
So that stuff scares the bejesus out of me.
You don't got to go, Maddie.
But I want to go.
Okay.
Because it's still interesting to me.
Well,
if that makes sense.
My buddy English, who does the theme song for Williams and Bloom on Cyclone Fanatic, he wants to go with me, and I want to take like cameras, and I want to like spend the night in these
I will not spend the night. I'm not spending the night.
Oh, but I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to be walking around
I'm
with
not
like a
falling
lantern.
asleep there.
Oh, I'm doing it. Yeah, because it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. All these people
Right.
out there, you're so naive. How are you so naive? Pay attention.
Open a book. Something.
He's Aiden Wyatt. My name is Chris Williams. Thanks for listening to CW Pod, watching us here on Iowa Everywhere.